When you do the reboots now, or juice detoxes for like 30 days, I've seen you do 3 days. Do you still kind of go through those emotional and physical changes even today?
I do, but they're not as dramatic. So they happen. It's like I haven't done any longer than the longest I've done is like 19 days, I think, of just juice only since I did the 60 days. Mm-hmm. Generally, I do between 10 and 15 days at a time. I was doing 4 a year, but I'm now doing 3 a year. And I also do a thing called a Reboot hybrid, where I juice and blend during the day, and then I eat at night. So I do that. And the emotional changes are certainly there. The physical changes, of course, you get a physical change because it's a great way to do a spring clean. I mean, I always feel like I've got a lot more energy at the end of it, and I feel more centered and more balanced. I have a tendency to get very tired if I work too hard, like anybody else, but I have a tendency to keep working. And I think that I can work more efficiently and I can do more work while I'm rebooting than I can if I'm living my normal life. Even though I try to be good, and I'm generally pretty good.
Right.
When I'm rebooting, I've got more energy and I can actually work harder and I can focus more. So, for example, writing this book, a lot of this book was written while I was rebooting.
Really?
Because I'm able to be clear. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. You mentioned this about the hybrid. Okay, are you a smoothie person as well, or just juice?
No. I'm what I guess the best way to describe me is that I'm all about working out fun and interesting and exciting and inspiring ways for us and me to eat more fruits and vegetables. So there's 3 ways you can do it. You can juice them, you can blend them, you can just eat them. Now, when we juice them, what we're doing is we're extracting the water out of plants and we're drinking the water that's being captured in plants. So when you juice, you're effectively drinking filtered plant water. When you blend, you're actually blending the whole structure of the plant. And when you eat, you're obviously eating the whole thing. Now, the way I like to think about it is that we all have a blender and a juicer in our body. Our blender is our mouth and our juicer is our gut. And so the nutrition will end up at the end point, which is the cells, no matter whether you eat it, blend it, or juice it. The reason I like juicing is this is apart from the reboot. So the reboot is a special thing. That's a moment in time where we are doing what I'm calling a nutritional famine. So just leave that aside for a minute. Just talk about everyday life. The reason I like juicing is because it's a great way to supercharge high volume of these micronutrients, phytonutrients, vitamins and minerals from plants, because it's easier to assimilate the water from plants than it is to eat the whole plant. I mean, I can get 10 or 12 times more in my body by juicing than I can by eating. Now, people are going to say, but hang on, Joe, when you juice it, surely you're leaving behind some good stuff, because that's going to be in the pulp. And the scientific studies show that 70% of the nutrients are actually extracted by a good juicer. You have a good juicer like the one I use, a Breville one. You get 70% of the nutrients out. So if you can juice, call it 10 pounds of produce, which is a lot, right?
Yeah, it is.
You're effectively getting, think about it as, it's the same as eating 7 pounds.
Okay.
Because you're getting 70%. And also, there are certain things that you don't want to eat. I personally don't like the taste of, but I'll juice them.
Right.
And it's very important that we get all the colours of the fruit and vegetable rainbow, the green, the red, the purple, the yellow, the orange. Because I don't want it just to be one colour. I want to make sure it's multicoloured. So the answer is I do both. But when I'm rebooting, and I'm specifically wanting to do a reboot where I'm going to sort of go back in time and live and experience what our ancestors experienced, then it has to be juice. It can't be blending. And I'll talk tonight in a lot more detail as to why that's the case.
Okay, good. I feel like that was like documentary part 3 or something, because I know you're working on another one. So
we are working on another 2.
Yes, I saw the email about that one. Next thing.
You're coming back. Yeah. Well, when I'm no problem.
since talking about the book, what is the concept behind the book? I mean, you have the documentary, you have YouTube videos, you tweet, Facebook, newsletter, everything. So why?
So I think there's horses for courses. You know, certain people like to read, some people like to watch, people like to listen, and we really hadn't catered in a book the whole A to Z of what to do, how to do it, why. I hadn't ever put it all down in one document. And so that's the idea of the book.
Okay.
Really, the book should have come out like 3 months after the movie came out. It took 2 years. But, you know, that's because I was a little busy. And I didn't really know what was going to happen. I had no idea of the response or how it would all be. I had no idea. 10 million people watching it, I never ever thought that.
Isn't it crazy?
Very.
It's like
very crazy.
Yeah.
Very crazy.
I was like, no one heard of this when I read it.
Yeah.
And it just went like clockwork.
It's crazy. Well, I think I got lucky, you know, because in 2007 when I made the movie, YouTube was only 18 months old.
Right.
You know, Facebook had just got started. Netflix didn't exist. So I made this movie at a time when I was thinking DVDs.
Right.
And when you're thinking DVDs, you're thinking about people paying 15 or 20 bucks for a DVD. And you're thinking, wow, if you sell 1,000, it's like 20,000. If you sell 10,000, like 200,000. And maybe I'll sell 10,000, you know? Because you're not really thinking that it's going to be as easy just to come home and you're on your computer and you press a button and someone shares and tells you very easily like a Facebook feed.
Right.
Because that hadn't existed. That didn't exist. And so I got lucky that my content landed in 2011 right at the hyper time when all this was happening. So there's a bit of luck involved. I think like most things in life, you know, lady luck follows a person of action.
Right.
So you got to go out and make your luck. But still, a lot of people do a lot of hard yards and don't get their break. I was just fortunate to get mine.
So speaking of books, I'm a bookworm. And what else besides your own book are you reading?
So I read
Magazines, it can be included. So.
Okay, so I have two types of books I read. I read books for escapism, like just to get caught up like in thrillers and, you know, action, crime, whatever. So there's two authors I like. One is Vince Flynn. The other one is Lee Child. Do you know who Vince Flynn is?
Yes.
Mitch Rapp.
My coworker is obsessed.
Yeah. Mitch Rapp. We love Mitch Rapp. Mitch Rapp's the American assassin.
Yeah.
And he's out there fighting crime. So we like Mitch and we like Jack Reacher, who's in the Lee Child books.
Yeah.
So they're the type of books I read when it comes to that. And then when it comes to wanting to learn and understand, Brian Wansink's book, Mindless Eating, is a great book. I just finished Sugar, Fat, Salt. I read books, The End of Illness by Katz, it just came out. I read books that I think are going to further my knowledge and understanding of what it is that I'm interested in now in terms of making content, writing books, talking, making TV, that so that I can learn from people that are far smarter than me. I always like to be the dumbest person in the room. I think that's good. Gives you a chance of learning something.
Yeah, that's true. So this might be in your book, but obviously we talk a lot about hair. So any juice recipes or foods we should definitely recommend to our readers about who are a lot
Sure.
of them are juice.
Yeah, so the cruciferous plant group, which is basically your leafy greens,
Right.
and your cucumbers, are particularly good for strong hair and strong nails. As you know, they're linked. And so the cruciferous plants are very good for that. Now, something to be aware of is that we have had reports for certain women have reported hair loss for doing reboots that are of a longer period of time. So it is possible that some people's systems, that they're not strong enough, they might be iron deficient or anemic when they go in.
Right.
And because when you're rebooting, they're already in this position of a little bit of susceptibility, then because the body goes in, and you'll hear me talk about tonight, what the body's doing, it's going in this survival mode.
Right.
And it doesn't like it in the beginning. And so it'll react. and it could in the beginning or midway through cause more of that. So hair loss is one of the very, very few. It's very small, but we have had about probably 3 or 4 reports of it, and that's over. Pardon?
That's very small.
No, it's very small, but I still think, given that you're in the hair business, I think it's interesting that I get very, 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 very few comments about any negativity. But what's interesting is that I've had 3 or 4 on the hair loss, which we are looking into. And so what we're now suggesting is a way for people who are going longer than 30 days. We suggest they add a pea protein or a plant protein into their juice.
Okay.
But I think that most people, 99.9% of people will report stronger, healthier, shinier hair, as in their skin. They just feel better. They come out of the morning shower feeling like they're on fire, and they just want to go out there and approach their day. So it's a much more interesting way to start your day after a day of plants the day before.